had worked on Galactic Commerce Station Velar 7 for 6 months, and he still felt amazed every time he looked out the observation windows. The station floated in the darkness between three different solar systems, a massive structure where dozens of alien species came together to trade goods and share resources. Worked in the cargo processing department, helping to sort and organize shipments that arrived from hundreds of different worlds. He was 32 years old, with brown hair that never stayed neat and a friendly smile that made most beings feel comfortable around him. Back on Earth, he had worked in a warehouse for 5 years before applying for the Galactic Exchange program. Now he spent his days surrounded by aliens of every shape and color, and he loved every minute of it. His work partner for the past 3 months was unnamed. They were tall beings with skin and large dark eyes. They moved with careful precision and rarely showed emotion on their faces. Stood almost 7 feet tall and had thin fingers that moved across control panels with impressive speed. He was excellent at his job, but he almost never spoke beyond what was necessary for work. Had tried many times to start friendly conversations with. He asked about food, about what did for fun, about whether he had family back home. Each time, gave short answers and returned his attention to the cargo manifests. Did not take offense. He understood that different species had different ways of relating to others. Some aliens found human friendliness strange or even uncomfortable. On this particular evening, the cargo department received word that a massive shipment was arriving from the outer colonies. The delivery contained medical supplies, construction materials, and food stores meant for 3 different stations. Processing everything would take the entire night. Supervisor, a sturdy woman named Holland, assigned him and to work the overnight shift together. The work was hard but satisfying, and moved through the cargo bay, scanning containers, checking contents against manifests, and directing robotic lifters to move everything to the correct storage areas. They worked well together despite their limited conversation, seemed to appreciate that worked hard and did not make careless mistakes. Around midnight, they stopped for a short break, sat on a cargo container and drank water from his bottle, stood nearby, his dark eyes watching the robotic lifters continue their work. Decided to try conversation again. He smiled and said, "Long night, right? At least the work is going smoothly." Nodded once. The manifest was organized correctly. This makes processing efficient. It was more words than usually offered, so felt encouraged. He continued, "I almost made a big mistake today, actually. I was about to send a whole container of medical supplies to the wrong section. Lucy from communications saved me. She caught the translation error in the shipping label before I processed it." He laughed at himself. "She really saved me today. I need to buy her lunch or something to say thanks." Noticed that had gone completely still. The skin was changing color, flushing to a dark purple that spread from his neck up to his face. His large eyes were fixed on with an intensity that made the human feel suddenly nervous. Asked, "Are you okay?" Did not answer. His thin hands were shaking. His breathing had become fast and shallow. For a moment, wondered if his colleague was having some kind of medical emergency. Then moved. His fist came down on the control panel beside him with terrible force. The display screen shattered into dozens of pieces. Sparks flew from the broken electronics. Skin split across his knuckles, and dark blood began to drip onto the floor. Jumped to his feet in shock. What the hell, what happened? But was already walking away. His long legs carried him toward the exit with quick, stiff steps. He did not look back. He did not say a single word. The door opened and closed behind him and was left alone in the cargo bay with a broken panel and a growing sense of confusion. He stood there for a long moment, trying to understand what had just happened. He replayed the conversation in his mind. They had talked about the shipment. They had talked about the work going well. He had mentioned Lucy helping him with a translation error. Nothing seemed offensive or unusual. Nothing seemed like it should cause someone to destroy a control panel and storm away. Cleaned up the broken glass carefully and bandaged his own small cuts. He reported the damaged panel to the maintenance system, then contacted Holland to explain what had happened. She arrived 20 minutes later, her face showing concern. "Tell me exactly what you said," demanded, word for word. Repeated the conversation as accurately as he could remember, listened with a frown that grew deeper as he spoke. "And that was everything?" she asked when he finished. "You just mentioned that Lucy helped you." "That was it," confirmed. "I said she caught a translation error and saved me from making a mistake. Then I said I should buy her lunch to thank her. That was when just lost it." Shook her head slowly. "I have no idea what triggered him, but this is serious. Destroying station equipment is a major offense, and if something you said caused this reaction, we need to understand why before things get worse." She pulled out her communication device and began typing a message. "I am contacting the Cultural Liaison Office. They have specialists who study different species and their social customs. If there is something about culture that explains this, they will know." Nodded, still feeling shaken. "Is going to be okay." His hand was bleeding pretty badly. "Medical was when the panel break was registered," assured him. "They will take care of him." She looked at with sympathy in her eyes. "Try not to worry too much. You obviously did not mean any harm, but something in your words hit a nerve that we did not know existed. We will figure this out." Returned to his quarters that night feeling troubled. He lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about his face in that moment before the explosion. That had not looked angry exactly. He had looked horrified, like had said something truly terrible without knowing it. Sleep came slowly, and his dreams were filled with broken glass and purple skin and eyes that stared at him with emotions he could not name. Somewhere on the station was dealing with his own turmoil, and neither of them understood why a simple conversation had shattered more than just a control panel. The next morning, received a message on his personal device. He was ordered to report to the Cultural Liaison Department at 1000 hours for an official meeting regarding the incident with. The message was formal and carried the stamp of Station Command, which told that this situation was being taken very seriously. He dressed in his cleanest uniform and made his way through the station corridors. Velar 7 was always busy, with beings of every shape moving through the wide hallways on their way to work or trade or entertainment. Usually enjoyed watching the variety of life around him, but today his stomach was tight with worry. The Cultural Liaison Office was located in the administrative section of the station. Entered a large room filled with display screens showing information about dozens of different species. Behind a curved desk sat a Delphian woman named Counselor. The Delphians were known throughout the galaxy for their skill in understanding and mediating between different cultures. Had pale blue skin and large dark eyes that seemed to see right through whoever she looked at. Holland was already there, standing near the window with her arms crossed. She nodded at when he entered but did not smile. This was not a casual meeting. "Please sit down," Counselor said in a soft voice. "We have much to discuss." Took a seat in front of her desk. His hands were sweating and he wiped them on his uniform pants. "Can someone please tell me what is going on? I still do not understand what I did wrong." Touched a control on her desk, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed an image of a family, with males and females standing in separate groups. The females wore elaborate clothing that covered most of their bodies, while the males dressed in simpler garments. Began, "I need to tell you about culture. What you said to last night was not wrong by human standards, but by standards it was a profound social violation." Leaned forward. "What do you mean? I just mentioned a who helped me." "You mentioned a female," corrected him gently. This is not a simple thing. Their society practices extreme separation between genders when it comes to public discussion. Females are never spoken about to anyone outside the immediate family. Not their names, not their actions, not even the fact that they exist. Felt his confusion growing. But why? What is wrong with talking about women? His large eyes held patience and understanding. The belief that females hold sacred status. They control all domestic affairs, make all decisions about family matters, and are deeply respected within their homes. But this respect is protected through silence. Speaking about a female to an outsider is seen as exposing her to potential danger and disrespect. It suggests that she is available for attention from strangers, which in their culture is deeply shameful. The information slowly settled into his mind. He began to understand, though the concept felt alien to everything he knew about human society. So when I mentioned Lucy, he said slowly, thought I was being disrespectful to her, or to women in general. In his eyes, you announced that a female was accessible for discussion with anyone, explained. You brought her into public conversation casually, as if her existence was open for comment. This is a terrible insult, reacted with the horror and anger that any male would feel when witnessing what he perceived as a violation of female honor. Put his head in his hands. I had no idea. I was just making conversation. Lucy is my friend and colleague. She helped me and I wanted to thank her. That is all. I believe you, said kindly. This is a case of cultural collision, not intentional offense, but there is a complication. The door opened behind and he turned to see two entering the room. One was a tall male with stern features wearing official robes. The other was older, with that had faded to almost white and eyes that carried heavy authority. This is Supervisor, introduced them. Superior in the delegation, and this is Ambassador who has come from the embassy to address this matter. Stood up quickly, unsure if he should bow or offer some other greeting. The two looked at him with expressions that were hard to read, but did not seem friendly. Supervisor spoke first. His voice was cold and clipped. Has filed a formal complaint against this human for profound social violation. According to our customs, such an offense requires public acknowledgement of wrongdoing and appropriate punishment. What kind of punishment? Demanded, stepping forward. Public shamming before the community on the station, answered. Formal apology delivered according to our traditions, and demotion from his current position to demonstrate that such behavior is not tolerated. Felt the blood drain from his face. I did not know about your customs. I never meant any disrespect. How can I be punished for something I did not understand? Ambassador spoke for the first time. Her voice was deeper than heavy with authority. Ignorance does not erase the offense, human. The harm was done regardless of intent. Our people on this station witnessed one of their own suffer great distress because of your careless words. Justice must be seen. Step between and now wait just a moment. Acted according to human social norms. On Earth and in human culture, discussing colleagues of any gender is completely normal and even expected. You cannot punish someone for following their own cultural standards. Then perhaps humans should not work alongside if they cannot control their tongues, snapped. The room grew tense. Could see that this simple incident was becoming something much larger, a conflict between two very different ways of seeing the world. Counselor raised her hands in a calming gesture. Please, everyone. This station exists specifically because we believe different species can work together despite our differences. But that requires patience and willingness to understand each other. Ambassador studied with her ancient eyes. The human claims ignorance. Very well. We will test this claim before station command. A formal hearing will determine whether this offense was knowing or accidental and what consequences are appropriate. Nodded stiffly. Fine, a hearing is fair, will have the chance to explain himself properly. As the turn to leave found his voice. Ambassador, I truly am sorry for any pain I caused. I would never intentionally hurt anyone or insult their culture. paused at the door. She did not turn around. Then you will have the opportunity to prove that at the hearing, human. I suggest you prepare well. The door closed behind them and sank back into his chair. Put a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm and reassuring, but could not shake the feeling that something simple had grown into something dangerous, and he did not know how to fix it. The hearing took place 2 days later in the station command conference chamber. The room was large and circular, with seats arranged in rising tiers around a central speaking floor. Had never been inside this room before, and he wished his first visit was for a better reason. Commander Elias Thorne sat at the head of the chamber. He was a human in his late 50s with hair and sharp eyes that had seen countless conflicts resolved during his 20 years of station command. His reputation was one of fairness but also firmness. He did not tolerate nonsense from any species. The delegation sat on one side of the chamber. Supervisor and ambassador were present, along with several others who had come to observe. Sat among them, his skin still showing faint purple marks from the emotional turmoil he had experienced. His injured hand was wrapped in a healing bandage. Sat on the opposite side with Holland and Counselor. He had spent the past 2 days learning everything he could about customs, trying to understand how deeply he had wounded his colleague without knowing it. Commander Thorne called the hearing to order. His voice filled the chamber with authority. We are gathered to examine an incident between Human Logistics Coordinator and Cargo Specialist. The matter concerns a cultural offense that resulted in property damage and significant distress. Both parties will have the opportunity to speak. I expect honesty and respect from everyone present. Supervisor stood first. We request that give his testimony. Rose slowly. He did not look at as he walked to the speaking floor. His voice was quiet but steady as he spoke through a translation device. I was working the night shift with the human. We had processed cargo together many times before. I thought I understood humans well enough to work beside them safely. I was wrong. He paused, gathering himself. The human began speaking casually, as humans often do. I tolerated this because I know they require social interaction more than my people do. But then he spoke about a female. He said her name. He described her actions. He discussed her openly, as if she were a piece of cargo to be labeled and sorted. Felt his stomach twist. He had never thought of Lucy that way. He had simply been talking about a friend. Continued. I felt horror and anger rise in me like fire. In my culture, what he did would be considered an assault on female dignity. I could not control my reaction. I struck the panel because I needed to strike something, or I might have struck him instead. He finally looked at. I do not believe this human is evil, but his carelessness caused me great pain, and I do not know if I can work beside him again. Ambassador nodded with approval as returned to his seat. Then she stood to address the chamber. We acknowledge that humans have different customs, but Velar 7 is home to many species. The human was briefed on basic station protocols when he arrived. Why was he not informed about social requirements? Commander Thorne responded calmly. Ambassador, this station hosts over 200 different species. Each species has hundreds, sometimes thousands of social customs and taboos. Complete cultural briefings for every possible interaction would take years to deliver and would still miss situations like this one. We rely on general protocols of respect and the understanding that mistakes will sometimes happen. Was called to speak next. He walked to the center floor on legs that felt weak. He looked at as he began, hoping his sincerity would show through his words. I want to start by saying that I am truly sorry for the pain I caused. I understand now why my words were so upsetting, and I wish I could take them back. He took a deep breath. But I need you to understand something about humans. In our culture, hiding the existence of women would be considered deeply wrong. Our females hold positions of power in government, in business, in military service. We celebrate their achievements openly. We speak their names with pride. To us, Refusing to acknowledge a woman's existence would be like saying she does not matter. The in the chamber shifted uncomfortably, pressed on. When I mentioned Lucy, I was honoring her. I was saying that she did something good and helpful. In human terms, I was showing her respect. I did not know that the same words could mean something so different to ears. He turned to face directly. I never meant to insult anyone. Lucy is my colleague and my friend. I would never do anything to harm her dignity, and I am sorry that my attempt to appreciate her caused you such distress. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then Ambassador spoke. Your explanation is noted, human, but understanding your intent does not erase the impact of your actions. Suffered real harm from your words. That is true, agreed, and I accept responsibility for that harm, even though it was unintentional. I have already enrolled in cultural sensitivity training. I want to learn. I want to do better. Counselor stood. Commander, if I may speak, this situation illustrates why cultural liaison services exist. Both parties acted according to their own cultural values. Neither intended harm. The question is not who is right, but how we move forward together. Commander Thorne nodded slowly. I am inclined to agree. Clearly acted without malicious intent. However, the distress caused to was real and significant. He looked between the two parties. My recommendation is this. Will complete the cultural sensitivity training he has already begun. No formal punishment will be recorded against him. However, he will offer a private apology to according to human customs and may accept or refuse as he chooses. Ambassador looked displeased but did not argue. The hearing was concluded. As the chamber began to empty, Saw moving toward the exit. He hurried to catch up, falling into step beside the tall. Wait, please. Stopped but did not turn. What do you want, human? I want you to know that I meant every word I said in there. I never wanted to hurt you or disrespect your culture. Can we talk? Really talk? I want to understand. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he finally turned to face. His large eyes held confusion, not anger. Your females walk freely among you, said slowly. They speak to anyone. They work beside males who are not their family, and you see no shame in this. Shook his head. No shame at all. We see strength and equality. Studied him like he was trying to solve a puzzle that made no sense. Your people are very strange. So are yours, admitted with a small smile. Maybe that is why we need to keep talking. Did not smile back, but something in his posture softened just slightly. Perhaps, he said. Then he walked away, leaving with a small spark of hope that understanding might still be possible. 1 week passed after the hearing. Completed his cultural sensitivity training and returned to work in the cargo department. The station assigned him to a different shift then, which felt like both a relief and a failure. He had not destroyed the working relationship, but he had not repaired it either. During the quiet hours of his shifts, found himself thinking about his question. The confusion in his eyes had been genuine. Truly could not understand how humans could let their females walk freely through the galaxy, exposed to the attention of strangers. In his mind, such exposure was dangerous and disrespectful. Thought about human history. There had been times when Earth cultures practiced similar restrictions on women. Some still did in certain regions. The idea of protecting women by hiding them was not completely foreign to human experience. But most of Earth had moved past those traditions, embracing equality and freedom instead. He wondered if could ever understand that perspective. He wondered if he himself could ever truly understand the view. On his day off, sent a message to requesting a private meeting. He did not expect a response. He was surprised when one arrived within the hour. Agreed to meet him in Observation Lounge 7 at the end of the current shift. The Observation Lounge was a quiet space with large windows that looked out into the darkness of space. Stars glittered in the distance like scattered diamonds. Arrived early and sat in one of the comfortable chairs, watching the endless universe drift past. Arrived exactly on time. He stood near the entrance for a moment, as if deciding whether to stay or leave. Then he walked over and took a seat across from. His skin looked healthier than it had at the hearing, and his injured hand was nearly healed. "You wanted to speak," said, "Speak." Had prepared what he wanted to say, but now the words felt clumsy. He decided to just be honest. "I want to help you understand humans better, and I want to understand better. I think the only way forward is to actually talk to each other." Tilted his head slightly. "You wish to explain why your people are so strange about females." "I want to explain why we see things differently," said carefully. "And I want to hear why your people see things the way they do. Really hear it, not just read about it in a training manual." Was silent for a long moment, then he nodded once. "Very well, explain." Leaned forward. In human history there were times when women were treated as property. They were hidden away, their voices silenced, their choices taken from them. Many humans suffered under those systems. Over hundreds of years we fought to change that. Women demanded freedom and equality. They proved they could lead nations, discover scientific breakthroughs, explore space, and do everything men could do. He gestured at the stars outside the window. Out there, human women serve as starship captains, as diplomats, as engineers. They are not hidden or protected from attention. They choose their own paths, and we are proud of that. To us, acknowledging a woman's existence and achievements is showing respect. Hiding her would be erasing her. Listened without interrupting. His large eyes were thoughtful. "Now I want to understand your view," continued. "Why do protect females through silence?" Was quiet for several breaths before answering. "Our history is different from yours. In ancient times, before we achieved peace, our people fought terrible wars. Females were targeted by enemies, stolen, harmed. Our ancestors learned that the safest way to protect them was to never let outsiders know they existed." He shifted in his seat. "Over generations, this practice became sacred. Our females are not hidden because we think they are weak. They are hidden because they are precious. They control everything within our family structures. They make all important decisions about children, about resources, about the future. Males like me handle the outside world so they do not have to be exposed to its dangers." Nodded slowly. "So in your view, you are protecting them by keeping them separate?" "Yes," confirmed. "And when you spoke about your female colleague so casually, as if anyone could know about her and discuss her, it felt like you were exposing her to danger, inviting strangers to notice her. In my mind, it was as if you were throwing open the doors of her home and telling enemies where to find her." Understanding began to settle in his mind. Our cultures took the same problem, the safety of women, and found completely opposite solutions. "It seems so," agreed. "Neither solution is wrong," said thoughtfully. "They are just different responses to different histories." Looked at him with something that might have been surprise. "You do not think are foolish for our ways?" "I think every species has reasons for their traditions," answered. "I might not share those reasons, but I can respect that they matter to you." Before could respond, the lounge door opened. A woman walked in, her red hair bright under the artificial lights. It was Lucy Warren, the communications officer whose name had started all of this trouble. She smiled when she saw. "Hey, taking a break," she noticed, and her smile became more careful. "Oh, hello, I do not think we have met officially. I am Lucy." Watched carefully. The skin showed the faintest hint of purple flush, but he did not react violently. His hands gripped the arms of his chair, but he stayed seated. "Lucy, this is," introduced them. "He and I have been working through some cultural differences." Lucy had clearly been briefed on the situation, because she nodded with understanding. She spoke to directly, her voice respectful but confident. "I have heard about what happened. I wanted to say that I hope we can all work together peacefully. The cargo teams do excellent work, and has told me you are one of the best processors on the station." was visibly uncomfortable, but he managed to respond with formal politeness. "Thank you. Your work in communications is also valuable to station operations." It was stiff and awkward, but it was progress. Lucy nodded and excused herself, leaving the two males alone again. Waited until she was gone before speaking. "That was difficult for you." "Very," admitted, "but I did not break anything this time." There was the faintest hint of humor in his voice. Felt a smile spreading across his face. "Progress," he said. Rose from his seat. "I must return to my quarters, but I find that humans are strange in ways I am still trying to understand. Perhaps we could speak again sometime. You could tell me more about your Earth." Stood as well. "I would like that, and you could tell me about your home world too." Nodded once. "Perhaps." He walked toward the exit, then paused at the door. "Your people are confusing, but I am beginning to think that confusion is not always the same as wrongness." He left and turned back to the observation window. The stars continued their endless dance in the darkness. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were living their lives according to customs and beliefs that would seem strange to others. The challenge was not to make everyone the same. The challenge was to find understanding despite the differences. For the first time since that terrible night shift, felt genuinely hopeful. 3 months passed on Velar 7, and the seasons of station life continued their rhythms, and had slowly rebuilt their working relationship. They were back on the same shift now, processing cargo side by side like before. The silence between them was comfortable rather than cold. Sometimes they even talked about things beyond work schedules and shipping manifests. Learned that enjoyed a game similar to chess, played with stones on a circular board. Learned that had a sister back on Earth who sent him video messages every week. Neither of them mentioned that discussing a female relative had once caused such terrible conflict. The understanding between them had grown past needing such acknowledgments. On a morning that seemed like any other, alarm sirens suddenly filled the cargo bay with screaming sound. Red lights flashed along the walls, and both dropped what they were doing and ran toward the emergency station to check the alert. A cargo freighter called the Starlight Venture had suffered catastrophic engine failure just outside the station's protective range. The ship was carrying a load of industrial chemicals, some of which were highly toxic. If the containment systems failed, the explosion could damage the station itself. Worse, there were crew members still trapped on board. Emergency response teams were being assembled immediately, and both volunteered without hesitation. They were assigned to the rescue squad that would board the damaged freighter and help evacuate survivors. The shuttle ride to the Starlight Venture was tense and silent. Sat beside, both of them wearing emergency survival suits and checking their equipment. The freighter loomed ahead of them through the shuttle window, smoke and sparks visible even from a distance. When they boarded, the situation was worse than expected. Entire sections of the ship had collapsed from the engine explosion. Fires burned in several compartments despite the automatic suppression systems. The rescue teams split up to search for survivors and moved through the wreckage together, calling out and scanning for life signs. They found 3 crew members in the first hour, all injured but alive. Medical teams transported them back to the station while and pushed deeper into the damaged ship. Then their scanners picked up another life sign, faint but present, in a section of the ship that had nearly collapsed. They made their way through twisted metal and broken panels until they reached a doorway blocked by fallen debris. "Someone is in there," confirmed, checking his scanner. "Weak vital signs but still alive." They worked together to clear the debris, pulling away chunks of metal and broken equipment. When they finally forced the door open, they found a female trapped beneath a heavy support beam. Her skin was pale and her breathing was shallow. She was wearing an engineering uniform with a name tag that identified her as Sira. Heard make a sound he had never heard before, a sharp intake of breath that carried pure fear. "That is my sister," whispered. His voice was breaking. "She transferred to this freighter 2 months ago. I did not know she was on this route." Immediately moved toward Sira, but grabbed his arm. The eyes were wild with conflicting emotions. "Wait," said desperately. I should not let you see her. She should not be exposed to strangers. The rescue teams, they will all know she exists. Everyone will know." Understood the terrible conflict tearing at his friend. Everything had been taught from birth was screaming at him to protect his sister from outside attention. But there was no way to save her without involving others. Said firmly, grabbing the shoulders, "Listen to me. Right now she is not a female. She is a colleague who needs our help. That is all. We can worry about everything else after she is safe." Stared at him, his large eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. The moment stretched like an eternity. Then something shifted in his expression. He released his arm and nodded once. "Tell me what to do," said. Together they worked to lift the beam off Sira's body. She groaned in pain, but her eyes flickered open. When she saw, she tried to speak. "Brother, I knew you would come." "Save your strength," told her. His voice was rough with emotion. "We are getting you out of here." Coordinated with the rescue teams by radio, guiding them to their location. When the other responders arrived, they included humans, Delphians, and beings of several other species. All of them saw Sira. All of them worked together to carefully extract her from the wreckage and transport her to the medical shuttle. Stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand and speaking soft words in their native language. He did not try to hide her from the others. He did not react with anger or horror when strangers looked at her and helped carry her to safety. Later, in the station medical bay, Sira was treated for her injuries. The doctors said she would recover fully. Waited outside the treatment room while sat with his sister. Ambassador arrived at the medical bay. Expected anger or disapproval. Instead, the ancient looked at him with an expression he could not read. "I observed the rescue operation from the command center," said quietly. "I saw how you spoke to when he hesitated. I saw how you all worked together to save her." Nodded, not sure what to say. "Perhaps," continued slowly, "there are situations where our traditions must bend. Perhaps protecting our females does not always mean hiding them from the universe." She walked into the treatment room without another word. When finally emerged, his eyes were tired but peaceful. Sira was sleeping comfortably, her condition stable. "She thanked me," said. "And she thanked you. She looked right at you through the window and said thank you." "I saw," replied. They walked together to the station cafeteria. It was late, and most of the tables were empty. They sat across from each other and ordered drinks without speaking. Finally broke the silence. "You were right. In that moment she was just a colleague who needed help. Everything else could wait." Took a sip of his drink. "How are you feeling about it now?" Considered the question carefully. Confused, relieved, a little afraid of what other will think. He paused. "But also grateful. She is alive because we did not let traditions prevent us from saving her." "Maybe that is how change happens," suggested. "One moment at a time, one choice at a time." Looked at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time since had known him, the smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. "You still owe me a control panel," said. Laughed, the sound echoing in the empty cafeteria. "Fair enough, but you owe me an explanation of that stone game you mentioned." "Perhaps tomorrow," agreed. "Tonight I am tired." They finished their drinks in comfortable silence. Outside the cafeteria windows, the stars continued their endless journey through the darkness. The galaxy was vast and filled with beings who saw the universe in countless different ways. Understanding did not require agreement. Sometimes it only required patience, respect, and the courage to sit beside someone different and say, "Tell me more." Looked at his unlikely friend and felt something he had not expected when he first arrived at Velar 7. He felt at home.